MSI has been a major player in the PC gaming and hardware DIY space. In 2024, they came out with several 800 series motherboards using the AM5 socket that was compatible with AMD's Ryzen 7000 and 9000 series processors. I got a chance back then to take a look at the MSI X870 Tomahawk, which I really liked and thought it was quite the feature-packed motherboard. I'm actually still using it to this day in the test bench, so that should tell you guys a lot, and you'll find that review on the channel. Now, skip to the middle of 2026, and MSI has come out with a refreshed series of motherboards, and among them is the MSI MAG B850 Tomahawk MAX Wi-Fi 2. Yes, that is quite the loaded name, but we're going to be taking a look at this motherboard today and seeing what it has to offer, and if it's a cost-effective option for gamers, that are looking for a feature-packed option without really having to break the bank. Let's get into it. Hey, if you enjoy content like this, drop a like, make sure to subscribe, and smash that bell so you never miss another video. Hey, what is going on, guys? Danny here, welcome back to the channel, and I hope you're all doing well. Been a bit busy these past few weeks, I haven't been able to upload much. However, if you guys are interested in seeing, what's going on behind the scenes, feel free to check out my Instagram and Twitter pages. I do post some, behind the scenes stuff, and just other things in general about my interests, status updates, gaming, and all of that. So feel free to, follow me on those pages as well. Links for them will be in the description. MSI reached out to me recently and asked if I'd be interested in checking out their MSI MAG B850 Tomahawk MAX Wi-Fi 2 motherboard, and I was already quite impressed with the Tomahawk line. It's been around since forever, I think since like 2015, and these boards have always delivered, plenty of great features. They were built well, good VRMs, and at a really solid price point, hence they've been pretty popular over the years. With the B850 Tomahawk MAX Wi-Fi 2, MSI is actually looking to target the mid-range market. It's geared towards gamers who are mostly looking to build a system with a motherboard that offers, all the essential features that they could need, but, a few extras here and there if they want to dive into things like overclocking and tuning, and they will be able to do that with this motherboard. I think you guys will be pretty impressed with what it has to offer. There are some pretty unique features that weren't included in the last revision that we'll highlight, so let's get into it. So what makes this specific MAX 2 revision particularly interesting isn't just the updated chipset, it's the fact that MSI has trickled down some high-end enthusiast hardware like a dedicated external clock generator for BCLK overclocking and a massive jump in BIOS capacity to really future-proof this platform for next-generation Ryzen architectures. It's a board that clearly tries to punch above its weight class in terms of performance tuning, so let's get things started by breaking down the aesthetics and seeing what's actually changed on the PCB. Taking a look at the board itself, MSI is sticking with the classic rugged Tomahawk aesthetic that we've all come to know and love. You're getting a very clean matte black and deep charcoal PCB paired with some massive chunky metallic heatsinks covering the VRMs and the M.2 slots. They've kept the industrial branding and geometric accent lines pretty minimal and subtle this time around, giving it a much sleeker profile that's actually going to blend in pretty much just any case you throw it in. But the absolute best part for a lot of you out there is that this board features absolutely zero RGB lighting out of the box. There are no flashy logos or glowing accents anywhere to be found, which makes it the perfect choice for anyone looking to put together a clean, stealthy, or anti-RGB build where the focus is strictly on the blackout hardware look. When it comes to power delivery, MSI has incorporated a really robust setup here that's going to be more than adequate and ample for the vast majority of gamers, even if you're looking to pair it up with a high-end chip from the Ryzen 9000 series. The B850 Tomahawk MAX Wi-Fi 2 features a 14+2+1 duet power rail system with smart power stages rated for 80 amps. Underneath all of that, MSI is utilizing a premium 8-layer server-grade PCB, which is awesome for maintaining signal integrity and keeping the overall thermals in check. While it's obviously not quite as overkill as some of those flagship X870E motherboards we've looked at in the past, this VRM design is incredibly capable and will easily deliver clean, efficient power to your CPU, whether you're running everything stock or delving into some overclocking. You'll also find that this motherboard is equipped with dual 8-pin EPS connectors for even a 9800X3D, or the sensible CPUs most buyers in this range will be getting. That is pretty overkill, but maybe nice to have down the road if you upgrade to something higher end later on. Furthermore, the connectors are all designed with solid pins. The solid pin design allows for more stable transmission of 12-volt power to the CPU, even when handling high current loads. Unfortunately, I wasn't happy that MSI didn't relocate the connectors like they did with their 800 series boards from the Intel series. It just made cable management an absolute breeze. Let's talk about the memory subsystem. The B850 Tomahawk MAX Wi-Fi 2 supports DDR5 speeds up to 8400 megatransfers plus, which isn't as high as you'd see from their Intel 800 series boards, but this is a limitation of AMD's memory controller rather than the board itself. The board has 4 DIMM slots capable of accommodating up to 256GB of RAM. This makes it an excellent choice not only for gaming but also for creators and professionals needing high memory capacity and speed. MSI is utilizing their memory boost technology paired with SMT manufacturing process, which essentially isolates the memory circuitry on the premium 8-layer PCB to provide a clean, direct signal path straight to the DIMM slots for maximum stability. But remember, typically 4 DIMM boards have worse signal integrity than 2 dimmers. Now, as we know with the AM5 platform, your actual mileage is going to vary here because memory overclocking depends heavily on the quality of your CPU's memory controller, the specific kit you're running, and the inherent nature of a 4DIMM layout where the 1-to-1 sweet spot actually sits around the 6,000 to 6,400 megatransfers mark. But for those who are delving into high bandwidth workloads, trying to push for 8,000 may be worth it. I do actually have a video on that for gaming workloads at least, so you can check that out if you're interested in. Around the memory DIMM slots, you'll find a CPU fan header, a pump fan header, 3 system fan headers. This motherboard has 8 fan headers in total, so there's plenty of cooling fans that you can connect to it. Unfortunately, there's no numeric LED code debug display. Instead, you just have LEDs besides component labels, pointing you towards the source of the problem. Then we have the ATX 24-pin power connector, which also uses the solid pin connectors to enhance transmission. Right below it, we have an ARGB easy connector header for the RGB lighting, and the fans. I like how MSI unified all the connectors, so you just have this one adapter. Then we have the front panel USB-C connector, 4 SATA ports, 2 USB 3.0 ports, and I always love the way MSI orients these ports to the side, as it makes cable management much more easier. Then at the bottom of the board, you'll find a plethora of headers, including fan headers, RGB headers, USB 2.0, HD audio, clear CMOS, and more. And what's also really nice is that for this B850 motherboard, MSI have also included the PCIe supplemental power port. This basically works like an extra battery pack for your motherboard, an innovative feature designed to enhance system stability and performance during demanding workloads. By providing additional 8-pin power, it supports up to 252 watts of extra power delivery alongside the standard 24-pin connector, ensuring reliable operation for higher power GPUs, intensive gaming, and resource-heavy AI applications. Usually, the motherboard's 24-pin 12-volt power connector can only supply a maximum of 168 watts. While this might be enough for basic operations, it does fall short when trying to drive everything to its peak, especially these days when high-end cards seem to have issues with the 12-volt 2x6 connector. For onboard audio, we get the ALC4080, which I've used on plenty of motherboards. It's a fine chip, will definitely do the job for most users, and I haven't had any major experience breaking issues with it. It supports 7.1 surround sound and has SPDIF output. When it comes to the MSI B850 Tomahawk MAX Wi-Fi 2 and its I/O, this is where the limitations of the B850 chipset start to show. While you do get options for a lot of connectivity, you don't unfortunately get any 20 gig or 40 gig ports on the back. What you get is a solid practical mix of ports that handles everyday gear perfectly, even if it skips the premium enthusiast standards. You get a total of 10 USB ports on the pre-installed rear I/O shield, 3 10 gigabit Type-C ports, 2 10 gigabit Type-A ports, a single 5 gig Type-A port, and 4 legacy USB 2.0 ports for your mouse, keyboard, and older peripherals. Video outputs include a single HDMI 2.1 port capable of outputting up to 8K resolution at 60Hz. If you're running a processor with integrated graphics, that'll work just fine. For networking, MSI included a 5 gigabit per second LAN port alongside the latest Wi-Fi 7 antenna connections for excellent high-speed wireless throughput. Moving down to the expansion slots and storage options, let's look at how MSI has allocated the bandwidth here, because they've actually made some pretty interesting choices for this B-series platform. For your graphics card, you're getting a primary steel and reinforced slot running at full speed, 5.0 x 16 speed, which gives you a complete future-proofing for your next generation GPUs. Below that, the board drops down to a PCIe 4.0 x 4 slot and a legacy PCIe 3.0 x 1 slot for standard capture cards or basic expansion gear. The M.2 storage layout is where things get a bit more generous. MSI packed in a total of 4 M.2 slots, and 2 of those are wired up to the PCIe 5.0 x 4 speeds directly to the CPU, while the remaining 2 slots are running at PCIe 4.0. To make the building process easier, they have included their Easy M.2 Shield Frozer 2 heatsinks, which features a toolless latch design. It allows you to pop the heatsinks off and lock your drives down without needing a screwdriver, which is a genuinely practical quality of life feature during assembly. Now, before we move any further, we need to address exactly why MSI called this the MAX Wi-Fi 2 and break down the specific hardware upgrades MSI has made over the original MAX Wi-Fi model. The most practical change comes from long-term platform viability. they've transitioned to a 64MB BIOS ROM chip, which is double the 32MB capacity on the original version, as we saw with the older AM4 socket, and if you remember the 2020 Zen 3 fiasco, when more CPU generations are added over the motherboard's lifespan, the microcode updates eventually bloat. Having a 64MB chip ensures this motherboard has the headroom to handle future AGESA or AGESA updates, without, MSI having to force to strip down the graphical layouts or drop support for older chips just to clear space. Aside from the expanded chip capacity, MSI has also added an independent hardware chip called the OC Engine. While the original version relies on the internal clock generation of the CPU and the chipset, the MAX WiFi 2 uses this dedicated external clock generator to allow for decoupled BCLK overclocking. That's actually really cool, and even the X870 Tomahawk I reviewed in 2024 doesn't even have this feature. That means you can adjust your base clock on the fly without destabilizing sensitive components that are linked to the system bus, like your PCIe lanes or the storage. They've paired this with a physical direct OC jumper on the motherboard for real-time frequency adjustments. Finally, on the convenience side, they've added an explicit easy memory detection LED near the slots to instantly flag unseated or faulty RAM. And as you guys saw earlier, a lot of those easy connectors at the bottom to condense ARGB, USB lines, and your fans into a single connection block. Moving into the BIOS, if you saw my previous X870 Tomahawk review or some of the other tweaking videos with the 9800X3D, this interface is going to look very similar. MSI is using their Click BIOS X here, and it remains as one of the cleaner, more logical UEFI layouts out there. Everything is structured coherently, placing options and menus where they actually make sense rather than burying them under random subtabs. You get a full suite of standard menus to configure your expansion slots, PCIe lanes, M.2 devices. For performance tuning, you have the advanced CPU configuration, housing all your standard PBO and curve optimizer tools, along with settings for traditional BCLK overclocking thanks to the external clock generation we were talking about earlier. And memory and voltage adjustment submenus are fully fleshed out as well, letting you fine-tune memory, primary, and subtimings, or dial in the fabric speeds as well. Another feature worth noting is the hardware monitor tab, which allows you to map dedicated fan curves directly onto the hardware sensors. It completely eliminates the need for running bloated control software inside of Windows, which is a massive plus for keeping your operating system clean. There is obviously a ton of other settings we can talk about, but then this video is just going to go on forever, so we'll leave it at that for now, but feel free to read through the motherboard's BIOS menu if you want to, check it out for yourself. Now that we've talked about the BIOS, I figured let's talk about memory overclocking, though we're not going to be spending too much time here because with this board, it will easily be able to handle most of the common configurations just fine. I was able to easily dial in and run my typical 6200 CL28 configuration with tuned timings, and I've done that with many tests and benchmarks on the X870 Tomahawk that you guys have seen from before. I didn't have time to validate a 8000 megatransfers plus configuration, but honestly, for the vast majority of people who are going to be buying this board, they'll probably be sticking with the configurations around 6000. Remember, memory overclocking really comes down to how strong your CPU's IMC is or how good the sticks are that you're getting. So, motherboard capabilities are pretty much the last on the list there. Alright, so moving on to testing thermals, I decided to throw this board through a half-hour test of Cinebench R23 to see how the VRMs and the chipset handles a worst-case scenario. My ambient room temperature was sitting around 21°C, and I ran the test in two configurations. First, on the open test bench with absolutely zero airflow directed towards the heatsink, so to see how the components handle the dissipation themselves, and then the second time with a 120mm fan plopped on the top running at 1000 RPM to simulate standard case airflow. Looking at the charts for the passive run, the massive heat sinks actually do a very decent job on their end, averaging in the mid-50s to low 60s under a sustained load. However, they're nowhere close to where you'd have stability concerns. However, once you introduce a realistic case airflow scenario, the numbers do look significantly better, with VRM temperatures dropping down into the lower 40s and low 50s. And because they run much cooler, then the components also run less electrically leakier, ensuring more stable CPU power is delivered, proving that MSI's cooling layout gives you plenty of thermal headroom to spare for any serious CPU or PBO tuning. To wrap things up, MSI's MAG B850 Tomahawk MAX WiFi 2 is a solid, no-nonsense all-rounder that nails the hardware fundamentals, giving you a robust power delivery system, highly capable VRM cooling, and an excellent dual Gen 5 M.2 storage layout. More importantly, by packing in a massive 64MB BIOS chip and a dedicated external clock generator, MSI has effectively future-proofed this board for upcoming Zen 6 upgrades while giving you mainstream users some great tuning flexibility. However, we have to talk about its current pricing because right now, it's been listed on Amazon.com for $259. Honestly, that makes it a really tough sell when you consider the higher tier X870 motherboards and some other options which give you significantly better rear I/O and connectivity and more PCIe lanes. and, just a better step up in the overall platform features, are sitting around in the low 200s. Like the X870 Tomahawk is around $223 at the time of making this video. So the only time the B850 version makes sense is when it's going to be sold on a very steep discount, unless you're looking for a board that has a, external clock gen on the cheap side. But other than that, it's kind of hard to recommend this board at its current price. So I'm hoping MSI, goes back and revises pricing here. But that's going to be wrapping up for this one. If you're interested in the board, there will be an affiliate link below. We'll touch base in the next video. Take care.
If you guys found this video to be informative and entertaining, then leave a like. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. Be sure to check out the video description for cool links and ways to support the channel, such as using my Amazon affiliate link. And if you're interested in seeing more content like this, then consider subscribing. I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.